All right, welcome folks to this walkthrough. In this walkthrough, we're going to go through the process of installing two versions of Python on your computer, on your Windows computer. In this case, Windows 10. We're going to install both Python 2 and Python 3. We're also going to install a general purpose code editor called Atom, and we're going to learn how to run Python programs within the Windows environment locally on our computer. Okay, so to start off, you're going to need to download a few files. For the purposes of this video, I already downloaded a few of them. They're in my downloads folder here just because they take a few minutes. So let me show you what you need to download. The first thing to download is the Atom editor installer, and that's at atom.io. If you just go to that web page, you can download the Windows installer right there. We'll also need to go to python.org. And we'll want to download both versions of Python for Windows, Python 3.5.2 and Python 2.7.12. You can download those two installers there. If by the time you're watching this, these versions have changed a little bit, don't worry that much about it. The main point is that we want Python 3 and Python 2. So download both of those installers along with Atom. And then feel free to pause the video now while that's all going on, and then come back when you're ready to go. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to assume you have all of the correct installers downloaded. We're going to start with Atom first. So I'm going to double click on the Atom installer for my downloads folder and say, yes, I do want to run that. Atom is a general purpose code editor, so you can use it to code in generally any language. What makes it different from another editor you might be used to on your Windows machine, such as TextPad or Microsoft Word or things like that, are that it's built for coding. So Microsoft Word, something like that, is built for writing, so it's built around visual presentation of the content of a file. So font sizes and margins and paragraphs and images and all that stuff are important to Word. To Atom, obviously, when you're coding, none of those things should go into a Python file or any other code file for that matter. And then also, at the other end, you have TextPad or Notepad rather for Windows, which is a bare bones, what we call a plain text editor, and that can be useful. You actually can write code in those editors. They're not really built for it though. You're not going to get features like syntax highlighting or some other integrations that you'll get with an editor like Atom. So if you've coded before and you have a favorite code editor that you like to use, there's no reason in particular we're using Atom over anything like Emacs or Vim or or any of those other kind of well-known editors. Atom is just a good universal editor that is available on all of the major platforms that will be used in this class on Mac, Linux, and Windows. So we just kind of use it for that reason. So it can be the same for everybody. So after it installs here, it's going to open itself up. It might take a second or two. And once Atom launches itself, we're going to just do a couple of small things before we move on to setting up Python. Let's just try to launch it manually. I assumed it would auto start there, but maybe not. We'll give it a push. Well, while it's in the process of loading, it's taking a few seconds though. Let's go ahead and open up PowerShell, which we're going to be using for some of our work. Well, here it comes, but it's still going to take a second to fully load. Go down to your Windows menu at the bottom left and click on All Apps. we're going to open up a program called PowerShell. And PowerShell is a command line interface that will allow us to run commands directly and do some things that we can't do through the normal Windows interface. So PowerShell is down here under Windows PowerShell, and there's several executables you can choose. We're just going to use the plain Jane Windows PowerShell right there. So click on that, and that'll launch pretty quickly. I've given mine a larger font here for the screencast. If you want to enlarge the font yourself, you can go to the Windows PowerShell menu and go down to Properties and change the font size right there. Okay, so now that PowerShell is open, I'm going to want to use this a lot. We're going to want to use this a lot in our class. So go ahead and pin it to your taskbar. Right-click on the PowerShell icon down at the bottom of the taskbar and select Pin to Taskbar. While we're down there, we also have Atom. I'm going to go ahead and say Pin to Taskbar on Atom as well, so that'll be there and quick and handy for me as well. So I'm going to go ahead and close PowerShell now. We'll come back to that in a minute. Now that I've got Atom open, and I've got a couple, it seems the auto launch did actually work. I was just impatient. So I'm going to close out the welcome screens. Right, so great. So I'm going to go ahead and leave Atom open for a second here while we go and set up Python. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is install Python 3. Let's install Python 3 first. So I'm just going to double click on that installer and let it run. Here we need to do a couple of custom things. Go ahead and at the bottom select Add Python 3.5 to Path. We'll talk about what the path means and why we're doing this in a minute. And then select the Customize installation. Everything on here is fine. You can leave that screen alone. And on the advanced options, we're going to want to check Install for all users. Notice how at the bottom the install location is C:\users, /Chris, /appdata, etc. That means that if I don't change this, Python's going to be installed. Python 3 is going to be installed below my user directory, which might be fine, but it's probably a little bit better to make it available to all users of this computer as well, and also just to kind of put it alongside most of our other programs. So if I check install for all users, it changes the install location to a global directory, program files, x86 / Python 3.5.3.2. And then I can hit install, say yes, and that will do its thing. And this will just take a few minutes. So the next things we're going to do here after this gets done installing is we're going to first kind of just show you how to run Python from the command line, just so we can verify that the install worked correctly and we can see how we're generally going to interact with Python 3. We'll then write a short program that we'll run at the command line just to show you how to run your own programs using Python in Windows. And then we're going to have to make a couple small changes to get ready to install Python 2 that will allow both of those Python installations to play nicely together. And we're almost there. So close. All right, there we go. So I'm going to close that dialog out. All right, so let's verify that Python 3 installed correctly. I'm going to open up my PowerShell here. And at the PowerShell, I'm going to type Python space dash capital V. So the capital V is important here. Everything here in this line is case sensitive. Python is all lowercase. V is uppercase. And the dash V just says, tell me the version of the Python program. So this says Python 3.5.2. So it looks like everything installed correctly. Let's just run the Python program and see what happens. All right, so here we get a little bit more information. There's some more information here at the top here. We can type help, it says. We can type help interactive, various things you can do. But generally, well, let's see. Okay, well, it didn't work the way I expected it to, but in any case, we're at a Python prompt here. Obviously, I need to practice this help utility a little bit more, but we're at a Python prompt, and this is what's commonly called a REPL, or REPL is the acronym: Read, Evaluate, Print, Loop. And that just is the order of operations of what happens if you type in a piece of Python code here and hit enter. Is that this interpreter will read that line of code, it will evaluate it, it'll print out the results, and then it'll do it again. So you can do pretty much anything you want here at this Python prompt. Anything that's valid Python code, you can run one line of code at a time. And this is really useful if you're just wanting to try something out, if you're just wanting to see how a function works when you give it certain parameters, things like that. You can always just run Python at the command line like this, get yourself a Python prompt, and then just try stuff out. So that's a good thing to do. To get out of it, you type exit with parens. It's going to call the exit function to kill that. And then I'm going to hit Control L just to clear all that junk off of my PowerShell screen. And that's just the general tip. And in most shells and most terminal environments, Control L will clean up your screen and bring your prompt back up to the top of the window. Okay, great. So we just saw that our Python install worked. Let's make a short Python program and run it. So first thing I want to do is make a directory to store my code in on my computer. So the command to make a directory is mkdir, no spaces, all lowercase. And I'm going to name this code. All right, if I type ls says list the contents of the current directory. We see that indeed I do have code listed as a folder in the directory. Over here in the mode here, this little D, that indicates that that thing is a directory as opposed to just a regular file. So I do have a directory now. To go into that directory, I can use cd. I can say cd code. And now we see that my prompt has changed, indicating that I am now in the code directory. Another way to see that is to type pwd. Pwd stands for print working directory. If I do that and hit enter, it tells me that here is my current working directory. C:\users\code. Great. Okay, so now we're ready to make a little Python program in this directory. I'm going to go back to Atom, and I have an empty file here now already. I'm going to go ahead and save it. You can go through the menu, or you can hit Control S. One thing I want to do before this, actually, this just brought this up. So here I don't have a quick, easy way to get to my code directory from dialogues like this or the File Explorer. So let's fix that really quickly. I'm going to hit cancel. We'll come back to that in a second. Let's go to the File Manager, and let's go and try to find our user directory. So this is a little weird. It's kind of convoluted. I'm going to go to this PC, local disk, C, users, and then here's my home directory, Chris. I like to be able to easily get to my home directory. They give you these quick access menu items here, things like desktop, downloads, documents. Those are all great. Some of these live inside your home directory, but I want to be able to get to my home directory itself very easily. So I'm going to drag that folder over to the quick access menu. And now anytime I want, I can just click on that, and this is going to show up in any quick access menu in the system. And we can see that there we go. We have code, the directory code right in our quick access menu, and it's empty indeed. Let's go back and save a file to that directory. So now when I go in here to save a file, I can go directly to my home directory from the quick access menu, and then from there into my code directory, and I can create a new file. I'm going to call this hello.py. .py is the file extension we're going to give to all Python files. So get used to seeing that. Okay, and hit save. Now, saving this as hello.py, it's helpful to indicate to the person, somebody using it, that it's a Python file. It's also helpful for Adam to know that what's inside is Python code. So if I do write some Python code, just a simple hello world program, notice how it's nicely highlighted. And you'll notice this as you go forward, that you'll get some nice syntax highlighting here within Adam for Python files. All right, I'm going to save. And one thing I want to do too while I'm here, before I go try to run this, is to change a quick setting in Adam. Let's go to File, Settings. Recall that Python is particular about white space, right? So indentations can be used to signify things like loop bodies or function bodies, conditional bodies. So we're going to need to pay a little bit of attention to our white spaces formatted in our editor here. So go to the Settings panel. I'm in the first panel, and I just scrolled all the way down to the bottom. And I'm going to change tab length. By default, it's 2 typically. I'm going to change it to 4. This is more common in Python coding environments. You have a tab length of 4. This just says that when you hit tab, 4 spaces will be used to display that tab as opposed to 2. So it gives a bit more of a visual indicator that something's been indented. Now, tab type, this is auto. This is generally fine for writing Python code. There are 2 types of tab types. There's hard and soft. Soft tabs mean that when you hit the tab key, a certain number of spaces are inserted into your file as opposed to just a tab character. In this case, 4 spaces would be inserted into a file when we're using soft tabs. Hard tabs mean that when you hit the tab key, there's actually a special character, a special tab character that will get inserted that's not visible, but is similar to like a new line character or a space character. So generally, we want soft tabs within our Python files. If you set this to auto, Adam's going to be pretty good about figuring out the fact that you want soft tabs when you open your Python files. If you happen to have trouble with this at some point in the future, you might have to come back and change your tab type from auto to soft for working with Python code. But for right now, let's just leave it at auto. Okay, great. Now let's go see how to run this file. So I'm going to go back to my PowerShell. Note that I'm in the same directory as the file that I just wrote. So if I type in ls, I see that I get a listing of hello.py. There's one file in my current directory, users/chris/code, called hello.py. This won't work if you're not in the same directory as the file you want to run. Let's go ahead and run our program. We do that by just typing Python and then the name of the program, hello.py. And it ran, and in this case, printed the output to the shell itself here. In the book we've been using, you're used to seeing the output display below the program. This is just a little bit different. It's going to be printed right out to the terminal you're looking at. Something else that you might have noticed there, as I was typing this, I started typing hello.py. I said HELL, and then I hit the tab key. And this is, in general, is going to work within shell environments. It's called autocomplete. If you hit the tab key, as you're typing a command or a file name, the shell will attempt to find a unique way to finish that thing that you've started typing. In this case, there's only one way to finish a file name that starts HELL in this directory, right? There's only one file in this directory at all, as a matter of fact. So by hitting tab, the computer's smart enough to know you really want to say this because this is the only possible meaningful thing that you could be talking about. So that's just a handy trick, tab completion. You might get used to using that and saving a few keystrokes as you go. Okay, great. So we've installed Python 3. We've got it to run. We've written our first Python program. Let me just show you one thing that happens if you might see this happening if you're new to shell environments. Let's go up one directory. I'm going to go cd space ... In a shell environment, dot means the current directory, the directory that you're in now. ... means one directory up. So by saying cd ... that takes me from users/chris/code to just users/chris. If I then try to run the same command that I just did a second ago, I'm going to get an error, and it says, can't open file hello.py, error number 2, no such file or directory. That's just because I'm not in the same directory as the hello.py program. So that's just something that if you see this error, know that that just means you're not in the same directory as the program you're actually trying to run. Okay, So let's go back and we need to make one change, as I alluded to earlier, to the installation of Python 3 before I can install Python 2. So to do that, go to your file manager, and down here at the bottom, go to local disk C, program files x86, and then find your Python directory right there, Python 35-32. Go in there, and here we have the Python executable. This file right here is the actual program that gets run when you type Python at the command line. We're going to install 2 versions of Python, though, and we really don't want them to get confused with each other. So let's be very explicit about this. I'm going to rename this executable Python 3. Okay? That way, I know when I type the commands Python 3, I'm actually running Python 3 as opposed to Python 2. And this will also align with the way that Python gets installed in Mac and Linux worlds, so that when we give you examples in class and we say type Python 3, that'll be the same thing for everybody. So let's go back and do this. I'm going to need to close this shell and reopen it for that change to really make sense. I can now say Python 3 dash capital V, and now I've got Python 3.5.2. And if I just type Python 3, I get a Python 3 interactive prompt. Okay, great. So now we're ready to install Python 2. I'm going to close my shell again. In my file manager, I'm going to go back to my downloads folder, and I'm going to start the installation process for Python 2. Here we do an install for all users. And here, this installation directory, we can go ahead and leave that as it is and just go through and select the default options. Okay, great. So that's finished. Hit the finish button. And I'll leave this window around. I'm still not done with them. Let's go ahead and open up PowerShell, and like last time, see if Python installed correctly. So we might guess that this is just Python. With Python 2 installed itself with the command name Python the same way Python 3 did. So let's just try that. And we see that there's a problem. So it says the term Python is not recognized as the name of blah, 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 blah. Basically, this is saying that the operating system couldn't find this command. What does that mean? Well, basically, the shell, the PowerShell here in terminals in general, they're not able to look throughout the entire computer to find a command. They only look in specific places. And there's usually what's called an environment variable called path. And path is just the set of places where a shell will look to find commands. So this isn't telling us that Python didn't get installed correctly or something. It's just telling us that Python 2 in this case is not in our path. If we run Python 3, that still works just fine. If you recall, during the setup dialog for Python 3, it asked us if we wanted to add Python 3.5 to our path, and we checked yes. The installer did that for us for Python 3. It didn't do it for us for Python 2. So we're going to have to change this manually. Let's go ahead and kill this shell. To add Python 2 to our path, go down to your Windows menu, right-click on it, and select Control Panel. In the Control Panel search, type the word environment. I said these were called environment variables, right? So we're going to edit the system environment variables. There are 2 options here. Edit environment variables for your account or edit the system environment variables. Choose the latter. Okay, this opens up a system properties dialog. Down here at the bottom right is the guy you want, environment variables. And here, we actually have 2 windows. Even though we select edit system environment variables, we can still edit our own at the top, and the system ones are at the bottom. So make sure you're looking at the bottom. So we want to work with the path environment variable. We're going to edit this. We're not going to delete it and create a new one. We're just going to edit the one that's there because it already has some good stuff in there. So let's go ahead and hit edit. Notice that as I said before, Python 3 was added to our path by the installer. So you can see that that's true just by noticing these two environment variables right there. So I'm going to say new, which will create a new entry here, and I'm going to browse to the location of that new entry. So here I want to go to this PC, local disk C, and then Python 2.7. I should be able to hit OK. OK. And just kind of go through all of these guys. And that should have just added Python 2.7 to my path now. Let's check it out. Python -V, Python 2.7.12. That's great. So now I can easily run both versions of Python just by either using Python or Python 3. That was the point of renaming that executable file. So now we can choose which one we explicitly want to run based on what we type at the command line. Okay, great. So that's it. That's pretty much it. You can go into your code directory and you can try to run your hello file using just Python 2. You'll see that it works the same way. Everything's great there. So now you have Python 2 and Python 3 installed on your Windows computer, and you also know how to run Python programs from the command line. Let's do just a couple small things to clean this up and to make this entire coding environment a little bit nicer for us. I'm going to close out of Atom and PowerShell and come back to my home directory in File Manager. So go from there and into my code directory. And there are two changes here that I want to make. There are two things I don't really like about what I'm seeing here. One is that notice that the file we created in PowerShell was called hello.py, but here it just shows us hello. It doesn't show us the file extension. Windows will typically hide file extensions from you. As a programmer, though, we generally like to see those things. We generally don't want information hidden from us. So I'm going to turn on a setting that allows us to see those file extensions. So you do that by going to View, Options, and then within the Folder Options menu, you can select View. And down here under the Advanced Settings pane, there's an option called Hide Extensions for Known File Types. Let's uncheck that so they will no longer be hidden. We'll hit Apply and OK. And when we come back, we notice that all of a sudden we see the extension for our hello.py file. That's great. The other thing I don't like about what I'm seeing here is that this icon to the left is a Python icon. So that icon signifies what the default program to open this file type is. So in other words, if I double click on this file, which program is going to be used to open the file hello.py? So the fact that I see this tells me that one of those versions of Python that I just installed or some related program is going to be used to open hello.py by default if I double click on this file. However, usually when I come to this file here, I'm probably going to want to edit it. I'm going to be running the program at the command line manually. I probably want to edit it when I'm coming and trying to open it here. So I'd rather have Atom be the default editor or the default program to open these types of files. So let me right click on this file. I can go down to Properties and change this setting. So within Properties, you can see opens with python.exe. That's the Python 2 program. We're going to change that and click on More Apps, and we'll see that Atom is in the option list close to the top. I hit OK, Apply, OK again, and we see that the icon there is now Atom. So now when I double click on this file, it'll open up for editing in the Atom editor, and if I want to run it, I can go back to the PowerShell and run it at the command line. Okay, great. So those are just some tricks to bend Windows into a shape that's better for using for you as a programmer to use. Okay. Again, if you had any trouble with any of these steps, go ahead and you can post a note to Piazza. You can ask a fellow student or a TF or an instructor, and we'll help you out as much as we can.